Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to Series Sundays. Rolling right along with our third Series Sundays. This one is going to be a little bit longer, I think. But if you are new to Series Sundays, what happens on Series Sundays is we talk about one series, chock full of spoilers, so many thoughts, so many opinions, lots of questions. So if you have not yet watched End of Love, which is the series that we are talking about today, which are technically 3 miniseries in one miniseries, then maybe head over to YouTube, check it out, and then come back. Or if you just want to spoil it for yourself, that's cool too. Hang out with us, listen to us talk about End of Love. This will be a little bit longer because this is my go-to.
Yes, brace yourself. This is definitely going to be a little bit longer because, like Ayla said, it's a 3-part series that is separated by 3 different titles under the End of Love umbrella, I guess. And it comes from Studio Wabi Sabi, I think in collaboration with Rookie Thailand. At least it was acted by mostly Rookie Thailand actors with a few exceptions. But yeah, let's get started. We're going to start with Tosara, which stars Win as Gun and Folk as Bar. We're going to read you the synopsis from my drama list. So, Gun Tossakan is a very bright and tall medical faculty freshman who has been in love with the popular third-year engineering major and head hazer Bar ever since he was in high school. Although at the time, Gun was unable to confess his feelings because of the promise he made to his mom not to date until he passed high school. Once he enters university, fate has very different plans for him. The world is small and a university is smaller. Being popular students at the same university leads Gun and Bar to collide with each other again and again until Gun succeeds in wooing Bar. Or maybe Bar, too, has a confession to make. Okay. I will say this comes from a very in-depth novel, and so this synopsis definitely feels like it was written from the novel because you don't get any of this.
Correct. So in the show, when I read that synopsis, I was like, how do we know he's the head hazer? Right. That's not in the show at all.
Or the promise to his mom.
And this is a theme that sort of like runs across all of the End of Love miniseries, which is Tosara, which is this one we're talking about right now, and then Love Mechanics, and then also This Is Love Story, that I've heard from other fans that have actually read the novel is that you get a ton more context from the novel. So there's a lot that goes on. So I would say we probably want to preface this by saying all of these opinions are coming at it from us having only watched the series, not reading the novel. So our sort of analysis and thoughts and feelings about it is from that perspective. So let's get into it because Tosara is definitely, I think it has the potential to make you not want to finish End of Love and make you, because it's very cringy in the sense that like, it's so like saccharine sweet sometimes.
Right.
It's so like the things that Tossakan says sometimes are just like, bruh.
Aggressive. He's been in love with this boy forever. So he has seen his opportunity and he's going for it, which is wild to watch. And
yeah, but
so also introduces all of the characters for the entire series. So everybody does make an appearance in this.
And one thing I'll say is you showed me Love Mechanics first, I guess because you had just some sort of like sixth sense that I was going to fall deeply in love with Yanwar.
I also watched them out of order.
But I feel like now that I've gone back, so Love Mechanics and End of Love in general is like my safety show. Like that's the one I go back and rewatch when I am in between dramas, and particularly if I've just watched like a really emotional drama, I'll just go rewatch End of Love. It's a super fast watch. Like you can slam through it, and I get to look at War's face. So it's a win-win-win for me. But so now that I've had that experience, I will say I think it all makes more sense if you watch it in order. So that's my suggestion. Part of me wishes I had watched it in order, and the other part of me thinks I wouldn't have had the same experience if I didn't watch Love Mechanics first.
Right.
But let's talk about Tosara, because one of the things that sort of was interesting to me when I heard that synopsis is that the university throws them together. Bro, no, not in the series. Fully, it's Tossakan being like, I'm gonna find this boy and I'm gonna make this boy my boy. And he is watching Bar at the pool, like watching him, and he notices that he drops his gear, his engineering gear, which if you have watched Sodus, you understand this is like a big deal to engineers. Like it's their, I don't know, it's their thing. It's like their class ring, like is how I would equate it.
And it's equivalent to their heart.
And he's like, that's another Sodus thing, but we're talking about Tosara. So he's like, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna return it to him. And this is where the cringe starts.
Right.
He walks up to him in front of all of his friends, including Yin. So this is where you meet Yin. This is where you meet Yiwa, who, in my opinion, is one of the best characters in the show. And this is also where you meet Nuea, who has the most iconic line in the third part of End of Love. But he walks up and in front of all of Bar's friends, he's basically like, I'll only give this back to you if you agree to let me hit on you.
And they're all swooning over this boy. It is fascinating to watch.
Honestly, I think because I like War so much, I never understood, still to this day don't actually understand why Bar would choose Gun over War, right? So Mark is War's character in this show, and Mark similarly is a first-year student, is super into Bar. And so Bar already has that going on for him because they establish in the show that like he kind of knows that Mark is into him.
Right.
And maybe I'm just biased because of that. But when I first saw this pairing, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get this pairing.
The height thing is a big thing in BLs. I've noticed in reading some discourse that people love a good height difference.
They do have a very striking height difference. But I think, I don't know, more than that, I was just like, I don't get these two characters together. It's like, this doesn't make sense to me. And what you said about all his friends like swooning over Tossakan, and it's established that everyone in the university is just like dying over Tossakan.
Right.
And I just didn't get that because he kind of read as like nerdy to me. He's a doctor, he's a medical student. And I was like, I do not get this. But the more out of series content I've watched, Win is actually very charming. Yeah. I get it. Win's got swagger, and I think he brings that sort of like confidence. And I think that's why it's established, is because Win does a great job of bringing confidence to the character of Tossakan, who has the potential to like not have that. Because again, he's sort of, the way that they style him is kind of nerdy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Upon first watch, I wasn't into it. Now I am. Now I get it in the sense that I understand why people would like him. I still to this day do not understand why Bar would choose Tossakan over Mark. But here we are.
So in that regard, I think the scene that stands out to me the most is when they're in the library and Mark shows up with James, I think it is. And it's like Mark's last ditch effort. I guess he's gotten word that Gunn is pursuing Bar, and he's like, oh no.
Because it's on social media at that point. Because everybody, the girl that everybody loves to hate in End of Love is Do. She has this like social media live gossip show thing, and damn, she's annoying. But also it's a great plot point because it helps to move things along and explain things you wouldn't know. So that's what's happened, is she has gone and been like, ooh,
right.
Tosara, right? Yeah. And so this is where that starts happening.
And sweet little Mark just shows up to this situation like, I'm gonna lay it out on the table. I don't understand. You guys aren't in a relationship yet. I am going to last ditch effort fight for my boy. And the whole situation is just wild to see because they act like Bar isn't there. And I feel like that happens quite a few times in the show, but Mark and Gunn just kind of go at it. Like,
well, so Mark is like, I will be shameless. He's like, then
right,
I will, he goes, then I will be shameless and I'm going to pursue you. And there shouldn't be any problem with me pursuing you like he's
right,
pursuing you because you guys aren't dating.
right.
And that's when the most heartbreaking moment of all time, the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
So good.
Bar looks at Mark and he says to him, to his face, to that face, he looks him in those eyes
Oh,
and he says to him,
so
the
good.
difference is I like him and I don't like you.
How?
Bro.
I don't understand.
I don't understand. But it's also, I understand where Bar's coming from in that moment. I can be objective enough to say, I get where he's coming from in that Mark is being kind of aggressive in that moment. And
It's like too little, too
to
late.
Bar's credit, I don't know if it's too little too late, but to Bar's credit, they've established that Mark has a crush on him. And and this whole time, Bar has kind of tried to just leave it alone, not give him any false hope it goes away kind of thing, so that they don't have to have this kind of confrontation.
Mhm.
And so I understand why he would say something like that in that moment, because he wants to be very clear with Mark that it's not going to happen. I don't want to give you false hope. We're not dating, but I am into this other boy. And this is just how it is, so that Mark can try to move on from him. So
Right.
I get where he's coming from in the same sense. How dare he be mean to Mark? How dare he?
So good. Okay, are there any last thoughts on Tosara?
For Tosara, my top scene has got to be Tossakan ends up in the show. He's competing in the Star and Moon competition for the university.
Oh, yeah.
And he's on stage, like doing his little moon thing. And everybody knows he's going to win moon because he's like the most popular first year in the whole school. Like everybody's dying over him.
Right.
And he sees the stage and he sees his moment to proclaim his love and do his love confession. And this is where I think I relate the most to Bar, because Bar's like, whoa, 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 whoa. He's like, bro, be cool. We're in public, is kind of like his initial reaction.
Right.
And I'm just like, that's so realistic because it is so cringy, but it's a fun watch. It is. Tosara is a fun watch.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, so let's move on. Love mechanics.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I'm going to start with the synopsis. And Love Mechanics stars Yin Anan as V and War as Mark. And the My Drama List synopsis is a love story that starts one night in a club between an engineering major, Mark, who is absolutely drunk and carrying the painful burden of his one-sided love, and the boy whom he bumps into and mistakes as the object of his affection, Bar. This is an imperfect love story between two imperfect human beings. Thoughts, Ayla?
Okay, so many. There are not enough minutes in this world. That being said, I think what's important to know for right off the bat is that I have learned that the novel gives you a lot more context and insight into War's character, Mark.
Okay.
So everything we're talking about and all of my opinions are fully based on the series. Let's start there. First thing I want to start with is that this is why you need to watch them in order, because the opening scene, literally like it says in the My Drama List synopsis, is Mark super wasted and is like, why won't you love me, Bar? Right. And that's because he has just had this moment with Bar where Bar is like, I like him and I don't like you. And then Bar and Tossakan start making out on like all over Facebook, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, once Bar and Gunn get together, they are like over the top lovey-dovey in front of everybody.
So that's why it really does set the scene for literally the opening scene. One of the things I do appreciate about it is they just jump into it, which means that you get more development. It's still not enough to really understand these characters, but you get more because they took the chance to just jump right into it. Mm-hmm. That being said, this is where the problems with V begin. I need to preface this by saying I love Yin Anon with all my heart. I think he's precious. I think he's a wonderful actor. Mad respect to him for really bringing this character to life and making me hate V so much, because that just means he's super talented.
Right.
I love Yin. I love Yin.
And
I live and die by Yin.
He's like the complete opposite,
right,
in real life. So that's what makes it even more fun.
He's a great actor.
Ship work, how different he is from the character.
He's a great actor. He has a very heartwarming sort of like life story. I love you, Yin. Yeah. Need to preface this. That's my disclaimer.
Okay, are we getting into the V rant?
We're getting into the V rant because this
is. You only get 5 minutes.
This is where the problems with V begin, in the very opening scene.
We're starting.
I told you I would fully make a list of my grievances against V because I have many. And if you're watching this on the video rather than just listening to the podcast, I'm going to hold it up. Literally made a list of 25 grievances against V. Here we go. I'm going to run down them and then we will get into it. Number 1, literally the opening scene. Mark has mistaken him for Bar and is like, why won't you love me, Bar? And instead of being like, let me get you home and being a responsible human being, he's like, fine, I'll make out with you and then we can do it, even though you clearly are not in your right mind. Okay, first problem. Second problem, he tries to gaslight Mark into thinking that he's only getting involved with him to make him leave Bar alone. Third problem, he forces Mark to go hang out with Bar and Tossakan for literally no reason other than to like bring him pain. Okay. And then when he gets there, he talks about Mark when he's standing right there in front of him. Number 5, he then calls him a dog in front of him to this boy that has just broken his heart. Okay.
That scene is rough.
In the same scene, he drags Mark to campus in the middle of the night and then just leaves him there. And then he gets mad at Mark for going out with his friends while V is waiting around for his girlfriend. He makes Mark the side piece and then pursues him as a side piece, no matter how many times Mark says he wants to be left alone, that this is not a thing that he's into. Okay. He kisses his ex-girlfriend as a goodbye. He doesn't break up with Ploy, who's his girlfriend, when he says he's going to.
After like a year, right? Like,
yeah.
Ploy, that's the one thing about love mechanics that is hard to kind of conceptualize a lot of times because there's a lot of time jumps. There are moments where they do tell you how long.
And they're not well explained.
No. Yeah. And so they say that they've been broken up for like 6 months or a year.
He kisses her like for old time's sake.
Yeah. Okay.
And he doesn't break up with her when he tells Mark he's going to. He lies to Mark about still having feelings for his ex. He lies to Mark about hanging out with his ex. This happens multiple times. He goes and hangs out with her one-on-one. He's embarrassed to tell his friends about Mark, which is a huge red flag. If you're ever dating somebody that is embarrassed to tell people about you, you shouldn't be dating that person. He's mean to Mark in public for no reason and will frequently say things that are kind of like rude and like kind of tear downs about Mark in front of other people, and not just other people, in front of Mark's seniors. He gets mad at Mark for bonding with Yiwa and Nuea, who are his peer mentors. Mark at one point brings them snacks and he like gets mad at him about that. So he's mad at Mark for having platonic relationships with other people. That's a problem. He acts like he has ownership over Mark's body when Mark is at the pool and he's like swimming and he's like, you just need to wear full clothes. Bruh.
They're not even dating at this point.
They're not even dating at this point, which even if you're dating somebody, they don't have ownership over your body.
Yeah, no. True.
He airs their business all over social media, even after Mark has made it clear that he's moved on. He doesn't want to talk about it on social media. He gets mad at Mark for getting a boyfriend that's actually nice to him. He doesn't respect Mark's emotional boundaries. And we can move on to all of the things he did to Ploy too, who's his girlfriend. He cheats on her, like full on he cheats on her. And if you want to say she's cheating on him, he cheats on her first with Mark. Sorry, he does. And then he never does actually come clean to her about Mark, even when they break up, which leads into the next problem, which is when he kisses her for old time's sake. when the friends come up, when Yua and James come up and see what has happened, he blames her. He's like, oh, well, she asked me for this. And she's like, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was happening. So that is this whole time, like, she's thinking that he's single and he's waiting for her because he never came clean to her about what happened with Mark. He leads her on this whole time by answering her calls and hanging out with her one-on-one after they break up. He basically leads her to believe that he's waiting for her. And he lies to his friends about what's going on with Mark. He lies to Ploy about what's going on with Mark. And just in general, he lies a lot throughout the whole series. Yeah. And those are my 25 problems with V. I have way more, but that's my list.
Girl, you got 20 more seconds. You got anything else you want to shout out to V?
What I want to shout out to V is that one of my favorite out of content moments talking about love mechanics is an interview with War and Yin. The interviewer asks them, if you could play anybody in End of Love, and it wasn't your character, who would you pick? Mm-hmm. And War picks Mark anyways, and he says, the reason, there's my timer. And he says, the reason I pick Mark is because everybody else in this series is a bad guy and I'm a good boy. And that's accurate, is what I will say.
So good. Yeah, V's character is the worst because he plays the worst type of boy who doesn't take any responsibility for his actions. He's almost this complacent villain, right?
The fact that he's gaslighting Mark the whole time, V gaslights Mark into thinking like, this is all on you and this is all in your head. And for me, this is just about protecting my friend and I have no actual interest in you. Like, that's a very emotionally damaging.
Right. He definitely plays this like, I'm doing this for the greater good. I am helping this other person out. He's doing it in the name of like being a good Samaritan. And it's such a weird.
And then he fully flips. So this is the interesting thing about watching Love Mechanics as many times as I have watched Love Mechanics, is it does feel like after the kiss with Ploy, he does this like magical flip where he has realized the error of his ways. He continues to make mistakes after that, but at least he's trying at this point.
For good.
Right. So at least he's trying at this point.
Right.
And he does. I'm happy they ended up together. I think Mark loved V as much as V loved Mark.
Yeah.
And I think they're a good pairing. I think that Yin and War just have such good chemistry that they can make anything work.
I'm excited to see a full series from them.
Yes. Because the time jumps. We miss a lot in the time jumps. And so I think that Mark and V will make more sense when we get a full series, which we were supposed to get a while ago.
Right. And like the makeup situation, like does V fully say I love you and that's it? Like he says I love you.
Yeah.
And Mark forgives him and that's it. Like we just
essentially, and Mark's friends kind of call him out on that. Mark's friends are like, dude, he really put you through the ringer and you're just going to take him back like that, which I think is the most important part to talk about in Love Mechanics before we move on to talk about This Is Love Story, which is iconic. So the most important thing to talk about in Love Mechanics, I think, is the friends. Oh, this is a theme that goes across basically every Thai BL. The friends are the best part. These are the best friends you can ever hope to have. The exception to this rule is Long and Tharn type. He's the only one that I've ever seen behave that way.
Right.
But the friends in Thai BLs are great. And Love Mechanics is the perfect example of this because when V kisses Ploy for old time's sake,
right,
and he gets caught, Mark walks up and he sees it. And he tries to blame it on Ploy, whatever. And Yua just looks at him and goes, you're not good enough for my friend. Yeah. She says, my friend is too good for you. Talking about Mark. And also James punches him in the face. And James is his junior. So James is the same age as Mark. And James punches V in the face. Yeah. And I was like, yes, you deserve everything that's happening to you. And then so the friends are awesome. And all of V's friends are even like, dude, you messed this up yourself. Like, we don't feel bad for you because you did this to yourself. Even when Mark is walking through campus with his new boyfriend and V sort of rushes out of the classroom to go see him, one of their friends goes out with him and basically tries to defuse it and is like, dude, V, we have to go inside now. And V is like, you know, looking pitiful. But all of the friends handle themselves so well and they say the right things and they do the right things. And
they're appropriately
my queen, Nuea, being like, my friend is too good for you. Yeah. Chef's kiss. Perfect. So love everything about it.
So good. Okay. I think that we're going to have to wrap it up on Love Mechanics. We are going to get a full series eventually. There's a little bit of drama going on with that.
A little bit of drama. Wabi Sabi was supposed to produce the full-length Love Mechanics, and now they are the most recent news is that they're no longer doing it, and they're recasting some of the side roles, which would include Ploy, who's the girlfriend, who is V's girlfriend. So we're going to see what happens there. I hope it comes out sooner rather than later. Before we move on, I have one last just little piece of like fun fact trivia about Love Mechanics. Again, could talk about this for literally years because I'm always on my war agenda. Is that one of the cutest, I think, little like behind the scenes fun facts is that the kiss, this controversial kiss we've been talking about all day, was supposed to be a real kiss. It was supposed to be a real kiss between V and Ploy. And they never directly kiss before this point that you see on camera. She kisses him on the cheek a few times. But they never like mouth kiss. And this kiss was supposed to be like a full like lip to lip contact. And evidently her boyfriend was the actress. Her boyfriend was on set. So I guess he was one of the other roles. And he like, and for I'm sure other reasons, Yin went to the director and asked, could they please use a camera angle and not actually kiss? Like, out of respect, because he was being respectful. And this is why I love Yin. I hate you, V, but I love Yin.
He's just precious. Okay. That was fun. Let's continue on and finish it up with This Is Love Story. So this is my favorite part of this series, because I love prom. I don't know what it was. Before I introduced this series to Ayla and I watched the series, I saw prom and was just smitten. He's like the cutest little nugget. I don't know what it is. It's something like...
He's a great musician. I'll give that to Prom. I love all of his songs.
Yes, he does have some good music. But him is new. He plays him so dumb. And I love it because he goes from playboy to like fully devoted boyfriend in like 2 seconds. And it is...
He finds the right boy. Okay, this is the love story. No,
this is the love story. Okay, so it stars Prom as New and Binz as the twins, Param and Parak. So let's start with the My Drama List synopsis. Ayla, you want to read it?
Sure, let's do this thing. Mostly because I think this one is the most ridiculous one, but I love Ben's so much. So, synopsis is a love story about how the engineering faculty's resident playboy, Nuea, secretly falls in love with Param, a senior in high school, and the younger brother of Gun Tossakan from part 1 of Tosara, and how he wins the boy and his brother over.
Yes. Okay, this whole part of this series is such a treat because it's probably the most unproblematic minus the age difference. Because in the show, Param is 18 and we're given that like New is maybe like 21.
He's a junior. He's a junior in college.
So somehow this high school boy is hanging around this college campus.
Here's the problem I have.
There.
Well, so I have actually asked this question in like Discords before and places like that.
Yeah.
From what I understand, apparently there actually legitimately is a reason for high school students to hang around college campuses when they're seniors in high school, because they do like tutoring and extra courses, and they have to take entrance exams and things like that. So there is a legitimate reason for him to be there. That being said, sure, he's 18, but he is in high school. He has not graduated from high school yet. He is in the high school uniform, the shorts and the short sleeve shirts. He is in high school, and Nuea is a junior in college.
Right.
I have a problem with that.
I understand. I will say I think they really handled it well, because there wasn't any funny business. Nuea was pursuing Param throughout the high school portion, and he even says, like, when they do finally make it official and they're boyfriends, he's like, I'm not going any further. You're about to be 19. Like, we'll pursue this more when you're in college. Like, I feel like he does set healthy boundaries for the most part.
But here's the problem I have is that Param's in high school, and now I'm saying all this. I actually think This Is Love Story is iconic and has some of the best lines in the whole of End of Love.
We'll get into
I love Prom. I love Benz. But the whole time he's pursuing him, the whole time Nua's pursuing Param, Param is saying, like, this is weird. Literally, he says, I don't know, but this is weird. He is saying he doesn't like it. He doesn't understand what's happening. He flirts with him a little bit, but I feel like at the point that a high schooler is telling you they feel uncomfortable with the way you're approaching them, you leave that high schooler alone.
But here's the thing. So in, what is it, episode 2, where they're in the bookstore and Nuea has finally started talking to Param and is like casually getting to know him. They're in the bookstore, and Nuea is starting to make his feelings known. And there's a moment where he's like, Param is like, you're getting too close. You're being too weird. I don't know what's happening. And then he goes, do you like me? And he's like, no, I couldn't imagine such a thing. So I think it's Param's inexperience too, that he's like, wait, what is this situation?
I don't even care. I feel like this cannot be explained away. You have a boy who is in high school, and the opening scene of This Is Love Story is actually iconic because Mark, who is played by War, who I am deeply, deeply in love with. He's drunk, and so V is kind of trying, because V and Mark are together at this point, and V is kind of trying to like contain Mark and his drunkenness.
First episode drunk Mark is a thing in the show.
It's perfect. It's everything I ever wanted.
He plays it so well.
He plays it so well. War plays drunk so well. But that being said, this is the moment, this opening scene is the moment when Nuea looks over and he says, oh my gosh, look at that boy. Look at his smile. Fair, I get you. Benz has a beautiful smile. But V goes, him? He's just a boy. And that is the theme that I feel like should be taken throughout this whole series, is that at the point that a boy in high school is telling you, P, you're getting too close.
Right.
I don't understand what's happening. This is weird for me. Even if he says, I couldn't imagine ever liking you, he has already told you, you're getting too close. This is weird.
Right.
Leave him alone.
Props to Benz for playing this twin role.
Playing two characters. Because Parak, who's the twin, is actually like kind of like a mischievous, like naughty boy who's like trying to like push things along.
Plays them so differently that like at first you believe that they're two different people. And I was fascinated when I looked up that it was the same person, because like Benz even uses a different voice for Parak, which is, I mean, props for this.
The first time I watched This Is Love Story, I Googled to see if it was actual twins, because there is a set of twins in the BL world, AJ and JJ.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, maybe there's another set of twins. No, it's just the fact that Benz is super, super talented.
He's so good. Speaking of Ben's being talented, he sings the theme song to This Is Love Story. And if you haven't watched or heard of Ben's music, Ben's Alert, he's on Spotify. He does covers on YouTube. He just did a cover with Jeff Satter. You should definitely go watch it. That boy is like putting out new music like every day because he just put out
He
another
has
cover.
covers like once a month, I think. Definitely worth the follow.
I feel like
for sure
more.
follow him.
Yeah, he's so good. So the other thing that I want to mention in the show is that there's this iconic line where they are hanging out a little more and they're sitting at a coffee shop and this girl walks up because Nu is this like known playboy and I don't really fully understand what her
I think
role
the
is.
implication is that they've hooked up before or that she has like a crush on him and maybe they were talking at one point. I think that's the implication.
And so Param, I think, is like getting to a place where he's like, I like this boy and I want to pursue a relationship.
He's been broken down. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. And so he says this line where Nu is introducing Param and he says he's my brother, which we know in BL world is like a big thing where it's like Pinong, like
Pinong. He introduces him as
love
Nong.
each other. We're brothers who aren't brothers. So anyways, Nu introduces him as brothers and she's like, oh, you're brothers. And Param looks her full in the face and is like, we're brothers, not like brother. A brother that isn't a brother, just like daddy doesn't mean father.
And she gets it. Immediately, she's like,
oh. Nu has no clue, which is wild to me because if you're a playboy, a girl has definitely called you daddy. Like
my favorite scene in this entire thing, even though I do have some like obviously deeply rooted problems with it, it actually is iconic. And by the way, the actors, Ben's is actually older than Prom. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. So my favorite scene is actually the follow-up to the brother that's not a brother, like daddy doesn't mean father. So the follow-up scene is Nuea this is another one of my favorite BL tropes, the unnecessary shower scene. So Nuea unnecessarily is half naked because he's been in the shower.
Never unnecessary.
Not essential to the plot. You don't need it. It's just a thing that's happened.
You do need it.
And he's literally like Googling.
He's on
and
Facebook.
He can't figure out.
He posts that
he's walking. Yes, he's walking around his room being like, brother that doesn't mean brother. Like daddy doesn't mean father.
And the girl
like,
on Facebook
daddy, and he goes, what does it mean? And that's one of my favorite. I've screenshotted. I use it as a reaction meme all the time. I actually sent it to Sobyohei once because I was trying to figure out how to order from them.
Yes.
And he's like, what does it mean? Peak boomer behavior, truly peak boomer behavior. And he posts on Facebook, what does this mean? And everybody's like,
you're an idiot.
And literally, I think it's Yua who says, wow, this boy's made you stupid. Like just fully calls him stupid. That is my favorite scene is when he's walking around his room, like musing, brother that doesn't mean brother. Like daddy doesn't mean father.
Okay, so then it leads to there's this like whole situation. Nu has brought Param back to his room because they're finally having their like come to Jesus moment where they're like, okay, let's.
Well, he's had a cute birthday thing or not birthday, graduation thing. Like,
right.
Yeah.
So they're sitting in Nu's room and he's like, I'm about to ask you to be my boyfriend. And he does. And he's like making this love confession and is like, I've never felt this way about anybody. Like you've changed me. You've made me a better man.
Which is classic. It's really good development because they've been positioning Nuea as a playboy since Tosara. Right. So since part 1 and now we're on part 3. So they truly have set up that like he's changed.
Yes. Oh, so good. And so I was watching it last night, rewatching this to talk about this. And I was reading the subtitles, but listening to the Thai. And in the subtitles, Nu has said, you're my boyfriend and you belong to me. And Param responds as well. But if you listen to the Thai, Nu says, you belong to daddy. And I lost it. He says,
It's
like,
a great full
he says,
circle
he says
moment.
Param belongs to Pa, which is Thai for
Dad.
daddy. And
Yeah.
I just truly was like, this is the most incredible line I've ever heard, because like you're fully owning that you're like robbing the cradle, and it is it it's so it's as wholesome as this like May December romance can be.
Okay, here's the thing though, is
I love it.
again, obviously I have some deep rooted problems with this age discrepancy. But that being said, what's so funny about it is after that, Nuea kisses Param on the cheek. And that's where he has that wholesome moment where he's like, we're not going to take this any further. You're 19, or he's going to turn 19 in a few days, is what they say. We can explore this more later. And then Param makes the decision in his apparently high school boy brain, makes the decision to reciprocate this kiss on the cheek by giving Nuea a hickey. Which is a very intense way to react.
Right. It's a big BL trope that you like mark.
You left a mark. Yeah.
They do it in Gen Y, and they do it in, I'm watching another BL, they do it in that where they're like, once you've established your relationship, you have to like mark the other person.
It shows up in Until We Meet Again, but not as like they're trying to hide it. Yeah.
Yeah, because then Nuea goes and like posts it on Facebook, and he's like, look at what I got.
I got a boyfriend.
I'm like, y'all, this is ridiculous. Okay, so this is Love Story. Highly recommend watching this all in order. Everybody has definite opinions about each show. This is Love Story is solid because the acting, these boys say these really cheesy lines with such sincerity that I am like fascinated by it, that I'm like, you're saying that like you belong to daddy with a straight face.
And Benz plays two very different characters very well. It is very well acted. You also get Drunk War, who, Mark is drunk in the very first scene, which is worth watching this a million times.
He's a little fireball in this series, which is
and
like
in real life.
Contrast. I feel like it contrasts to him in real life because he's like this giggly little like older brother that
War just really commits to bits. If you watch some of his out of content stuff, he just really will. He'll get a bit in his mind, something that he thinks is funny, and he'll really commit to it. Okay. And I think that's why he's so good at playing drunk. And they have him do it twice in End of Love in very important parts. So, yeah, what's interesting about End of Love is I think each part has devoted fans. So I know people that are just devoted to Tosara. They think it's the best one. They think it's fantastic. They think it's great. You have people like me who are highly dedicated to love mechanics despite my 25-point list of grievances against V. And then you have people like you who think This Is Love Story is the best. So what's interesting about it is it's so short and you don't get as much character development as you want, but people feel so strongly about it.
Yeah. I wonder, I don't know anything about the novels, but I wonder if the novels were like super popular. And so that's why people just enjoy seeing things from a novel brought to life. But I am excited. Yeah. We are eventually going to get a full series for love mechanics specifically. So it'll be fun to see how they flesh out all the characters. And
they fill in the blanks.
Yeah, they're going to show like a Mark New situation, because that's the other thing that we didn't talk about, that like New has a crush on Mark, but New is a playboy, so I think he plays it off a little bit and is like, whatever.
He vaguely pursues him, and they do talk about it a little bit.
So yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting. I'm also excited. Ben's just got cast in a new BL with one of the leads from 2 Moons 2, and Prom has been announced that he's part of this like project through some studio with a bunch of other boys. We don't know specifically what that's going to look like, but all these boys have music and lots of other projects. So please go check those out too.
Yeah. Shout out Ricky Thailand and Studio Wabi Sabi. I think those two together really created this powerhouse of a thing, and it's kind of a shame we don't have more of it. I think Ricky Thailand does a really good job with all of the boys they manage in terms of putting them up for roles and putting them in situations that they just can excel at.
Right.
And same thing with Studio Wabi Sabi, because Benz, you don't see him in a ton of stuff.
Right.
But the stuff that he's been in, he's just has been very well suited for him.
Yeah. There's also a fun vlog that Studio Wabi Sabi did with all the Love Mechanic boys
and Yacht and Sammy.
Yeah. Earth and Yacht and Sammy are there. And it's fun. They're like a water park doing little missions.
Yeah. And for me, it's fantastic because Sammy is my favorite, like, person that plays a friend in BLs. And then obviously I love war so much that it's a fun time for me.
Okay. Well, that is a wrap on End of Love.
End of Love.
We did it.
We powered through it. Less than an hour. We were very concerned.
I hope that you fully enjoy listening to this as we fully enjoyed talking about this.
See you next time on Let's Talk BL.